Can teenagers work full-time? What are the rules? If you've ever been a teenager looking for a job or a parent helping your kid apply, you've probably asked, can teenagers work full-time and what are the rules? Maybe it's summer break and a 16-year-old wants to work 40 hours a week to save for a car. Or maybe a 15-year-old is juggling after-school hours, but the boss wants them on weekends too. The law isn't always straightforward. Some teenagers can work full-time, others cannot, and the answer changes depending on age, type of work, and whether school is in session. In this video, we'll explain it clearly. We'll look at the federal rules under the Fair Labor Standards Act, F.L.S.A., how hours differ for 14 and 15-year-olds versus 16 and 17-year-olds, what jobs are considered hazardous, and how state laws can add extra restrictions. By the end, you'll know exactly when teens can work full-time and when they can't. 1. The federal framework, the F.L.S.A. The main law governing teenage work in the United States is the Fair Labor Standards Act, F.L.S.A., enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor. The F.L.S.A. sets minimum wage, overtime, and child labor standards. The rules shift depending on age. Children under 14 can only do very limited jobs, such as babysitting, yard work, or acting. At 14 and 15, teenagers can work, but only in specific jobs and with strict limits on hours. At 16 and 17, they can work in almost any job except those the Department of Labor considers hazardous. At 18, they are legally adults, and child labor restrictions no longer apply. In other words, whether a teen can work full-time depends first on their age and whether school is in session. 2. Rules for 14 and 15-year-olds. For younger teens, the law is strict. At 14 and 15, they can work, but not full-time during the school year. During school weeks, no more than 3 hours on a school day. No more than 18 hours in a school week. Work only between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. During summer, June 1st through Labor Day. Up to 8 hours on non-school days. Up to 40 hours per week when school is out. Evening hours extended to 9 p.m. Types of jobs allowed: office work, cashiering, retail, food service such as bussing tables or running a register. Limited kitchen work, but no cooking with open flames or fryers. Absolutely no hazardous jobs like construction, mining, or factory work. For example, a 15-year-old can legally work 40 hours at a grocery store during summer vacation. But during the school year, they cannot exceed 18 hours per week. 3. Rules for 16 and 17-year-olds. Once a teen turns 16, the restrictions open up significantly. The F.L.S.A. removes hour limits, which means 16 and 17-year-olds can legally work full-time, even during the school year. The big exception is hazardous occupations. The Department of Labor bans minors under 18 from working in dangerous industries, including mining, logging, and meatpacking, jobs involving heavy machinery, forklifts, or certain power tools, roofing, excavation, and demolition, manufacturing involving explosives or dangerous chemicals. A 17-year-old can work 50 hours a week as a restaurant waiter with no problem, but they cannot legally be assigned to climb up and repair the roof or use an industrial bakery mixer. 4. School versus work. Why restrictions exist. These child labor rules are designed to balance opportunity with protection. For 14 and 15-year-olds, the main concern is education. Lawmakers didn't want young teens working late nights or 40-hour weeks while trying to keep up in school. For 16 and 17-year-olds, the focus shifts to safety. The law allows them to work full-time, but keeps them out of industries where serious injuries are more likely. In one Department of Labor case, a 17-year-old was injured while running heavy equipment in violation of child labor rules. The employer faced fines because even though the teen was old enough for full-time work, hazardous occupations remained off-limits. 5. State laws and stricter standards. The F.L.S.A. sets a national baseline, but states often add stricter rules. Employers must follow whichever law is more protective of the teen worker. In Massachusetts, teens under 18 need work permits, and even 16 and 17-year-olds face school year hour restrictions. In New Jersey, minors under 18 need parental consent, and nighttime hours are limited. In California, 14 and 15-year-olds need work permits from school officials, and enforcement is strict. That means a 16-year-old in Texas might be able to work unlimited hours at a fast food job, while a 16-year-old in Massachusetts may need a permit and face curfews. 6. Minimum wage and overtime rules for teens. Teenagers are also covered by wage and hour laws, but with some exceptions. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. Teens must be paid at least this, unless state law sets a higher rate. There's a special youth minimum wage. Workers under 20 can be paid $4.25 per hour during their first 90 days on a job. After 90 days, full minimum wage applies. For workers 16 and older, overtime applies. More than 40 hours in a week means time and a half pay. Yes, for 14 and 15-year-olds, because they cannot work over 40 hours, overtime rarely comes into play. For instance, a 17-year-old who works 45 hours in a warehouse must be paid overtime for the extra 5 hours, unless the job itself is hazardous, in which case the employer shouldn't have hired them for it at all. 7. Real-world scenarios. Let's bring this into everyday life. A 15-year-old wants to work full-time at a coffee shop during the school year. That's not legal. Hours are capped at 18 per week when school is in session. The same 15-year-old wants to work 40 hours in July at a grocery store. That's legal since school is out. A 17-year-old takes on 50 hours at a retail store. That's legal too, but the employer must pay overtime beyond 40 hours. A 17-year-old is asked to do roofing. That's illegal since roofing is considered hazardous. A 16-year-old in New York wants late-night shifts during school. State law requires parental consent and imposes curfews, so the employer must follow those rules. These examples show how the same law plays out differently depending on age, state, and type of work. 8. Enforcement and penalties for employers. The Department of Labor enforces child labor laws and treats violations seriously. Civil penalties can reach over $15,000 for each minor illegally employed. If the violation causes serious injury or death, the penalties are far higher. Repeat violators may face injunctions or even criminal charges. For example, a national fast food chain was fined after allowing 14-year-olds to work past 9 p.m. during the school year. Even though the teenagers wanted the hours, the employer had to pay fines because the law was clear. 9. Why knowing these rules matters. Teen jobs can teach responsibility, build work experience, and provide much-needed income. But without rules, young workers could be overworked or exposed to dangerous conditions. The F.L.S.A, state child labor laws, and Department of Labor enforcement exist to keep education a priority and workplaces safe. For parents and teens, understanding the law prevents exploitation. For employers, compliance means avoiding penalties and ensuring a fair workplace. Knowledge is the best protection, especially when it comes to young workers just starting their careers. So, can teenagers work full-time? The answer depends on age, the type of job, and the time of year. Under the F.L.S.A, 14 and 15-year-olds are limited to part-time hours during the school year, but can work full-time in the summer. Once they turn 16, they can work unlimited hours, but hazardous jobs remain off-limits until 18. State laws may impose stricter rules, and employers must follow whichever rule is more protective. The bottom line, teenagers can sometimes work full-time, but the rules are designed to protect education and safety. If this video helped clarify things, share it with parents, teens, and coworkers, because knowing the law makes work safer for everyone.